Hello, I'm Kerry Shamblin, and I practice jyotisha, also known as Vedic Astrology. I have been offering a monthly forecast since 1999 where I track how the planets are moving through the sky and how they may be affecting our life on Earth. I also work directly with others through counseling, teaching, and mentoring. Hello, this is Kerry with the July 2026 Vedic Astrology forecast. Let's start out with a summary from the 9 planets. The Sun begins July in Gemini, then enters Cancer on July 16th, shifting attention from gathering information to strengthening home, family, and emotional foundations. As the Sun approaches Exalted Jupiter, optimism and confidence steadily increase. Their exact conjunction on July 29th highlights wisdom, generosity, and the opportunity to lead with clarity rather than urgency. The Moon. The July lunations emphasize reflection first, then renewed confidence. The new moon in Gemini on July 14th, joined by retrograde Mercury, encourages reassessing plans, learning from recent experience, and making thoughtful adjustments rather than pushing ahead too quickly. By the full moon in Capricorn on July 29th, Jupiter's exact conjunction with the Sun brings a welcome sense of clarity, wisdom, and emotional steadiness, making it an excellent time to recognize progress, strengthen commitments, and move into August with renewed purpose. Mars continues his steady transit through Taurus, emphasizing persistence over speed. Saturn's aspect encourages careful planning, while Mars's aspect to Ketu and Venus in Leo helps break through obstacles that once appeared immovable. July favors finishing projects already underway through strength, patience, and disciplined action rather than impulsive force. Mercury. Retrograde Mercury dominates much of July after returning to Gemini on July 7th. This is an ideal period for editing, reorganizing, relearning, and refining ideas before moving ahead. Mercury resumes direct motion on July 23rd, gradually restoring confidence in communication, transactions, and planning as the month comes to a close. Jupiter. Exalted Jupiter settles comfortably into Cancer, bringing one of the strongest growth periods seen in several years. His supportive aspect to Saturn begins softening long-standing obstacles while encouraging expansion rooted in wisdom rather than excess. July invites steady cultivation of goals, relationships, education, and abundance that can continue growing well beyond this year. Venus leaves Cancer and enters Leo on July 4th, ending the nurturing partnership with Jupiter and beginning a more challenging but transformative chapter. Conjoining Ketu, while receiving Mars's aspect, Venus asks us to rethink relationships, creativity, negotiations, and values. Breakthroughs often arrive only after releasing attachments or approaching problems from an entirely different angle. Saturn stations retrograde in Pisces on July 26th, beginning several months of reviewing unfinished responsibilities and long-term commitments. Rather than introducing entirely new burdens, retrograde Saturn revisits old lessons that still require integration. Jupiter's continued support helps balance Saturn's seriousness with hope, patience, and faith in gradual progress. Rahu continues amplifying innovation, uncertainty, and rapid change from Aquarius, while maintaining pressure on Mercury and the Sun during the first half of the month. His influence encourages unconventional thinking, but can also scatter attention. July rewards those who remain adaptable without abandoning practical judgment. Ketu remains powerful in Leo, quietly dismantling attachments while revealing new pathways through surrender and simplicity. Venus crossing Ketu becomes one of the month's defining influences, suggesting that relationships, creative projects, and important negotiations may reach turning points through unexpected openings. By month's end, Venus moving beyond Ketu marks the symbolic conclusion of the long Kala Amrita Yoga cycle. For an in-depth analysis of specific planetary placements, please continue with the full planetary forecast. Mars occupies Taurus in July. Mars moved out of his own territory of Aries on June 20th, putting him into Venus's stable sign, Taurus, until August 2nd, when Mars pushes into Gemini. The overall advice for this transit of Mars in Taurus is to work steadily, one step at a time, as pushing things into a faster speed could not only result in costly mistakes, but also in delays or obstructions that we can actually see coming and avoid with careful action. Mars is not in friendly territory in Venus's sign, but could still accomplish some forward movement. There are two factors stacking up to suggest that slowing down will keep us more in the flow while Mars moves across Taurus. First, Saturn's aspect continues to affect Taurus, which may feel like putting on the brakes or moving cautiously when it comes to the Taurian matters in your personal chart. Second, from Taurus, receiving Saturn's pressurized reminder not to jump the gun, Mars's force projects to the sign of Leo, which currently hosts obstructive Ketu. As of July 4th, Venus, the one who loves to flow, enters Leo, but will be slowed down by Ketu. Venus is host to Mars and conjoining with Ketu. This circular motion of slowing and obstruction will affect the powerful Mars and the graceful Venus through July. As far as Mars is concerned, this is a good month to make progress on projects already initiated. Think about projects in the home, garden, or place of business that require patience, attention, strength, and precision. By aspect, we will also feel Mars's fiery strength reverberating into the signs of Leo, Scorpio, and Sagittarius. Mars grants purposeful strategy and the courage to implement. Identify how that energy could be applied in July as Mars aspects those signs. This could be good energy to move the immovable. Taurus, Leo, and Scorpio are fixed signs, where stability can morph into stagnation. Apply force to stuck things that need a nudge to move forward. Especially notable is Mars's aspect into Leo, which currently holds Ketu. Together, Mars and Ketu co-rule the sign of Scorpio, known for its mysterious depths and intuitive intensity. Problems could be solved and obstacles surmounted with a clever combination of brute force and finesse under this astrological pattern. Jupiter blossoms in Cancer. For Jupiter's second full month in Cancer, we see him gliding through the early degrees of the moon's water sign in the nakshatra of Pushya throughout July. By the end of the first week, his companions will have vacated Cancer, with Venus moving to Leo on July 4th and retrograde Mercury retreating to Gemini on July 7th. This is grade A growth energy, with the planet who rules purpose, right action, and expansion well disposed in his sign of exaltation through October. Cancer gives Jupiter this benefit, which then extends by aspect into the opposite sign of Capricorn and also into the other water signs, Scorpio and Pisces. It has been 6 years since such a positive Jupiter has had a clear line of sight on Saturn, who rules the opposite actions of contraction, loss, and limitation. Saturn currently occupies Jupiter's water sign, Pisces. Keep dreaming big and watering the seeds you are fostering to grow. After a long cycle of contraction and limitation with Saturn dominating the scene since 2020, it may also require patience and healing to find the bounce again after what could have been a long series of disappointing events. Jupiter is associated with many things, including divinity, education, financial abundance, attaining fruits of labor, and all things nature. Start small, but think big as you step into the creative space of growth. Remember that Mars is pushing the load, but we're taking it one step at a time due to Saturn's strong suggestions. We have been focused on stable foundations for so long. It is time to start building up. The Sun enters Cancer on July 16th, moving quickly toward Jupiter and bringing the state of combustion into play. Combustion is when a planet comes into the Sun's bright orb and is lost from sight. The Sun's light engulfs the other planet temporarily, causing us to lose contact with the combust planet that we know is still there. One could see this as negative, perceiving that Jupiter's goodness gets burnt away, or one could see this as positive, with Jupiter's good graces bundling in with the Sun and beaming at us whether ready or not. The exact conjunction comes on July 29th, when the Sun moves through Jupiter's zone at 13 degrees Cancer, but technically we will feel this state of combustion from July 13th through August 12th. Venus transits Leo July 4th through the 31st. The Venus and Jupiter combination that we have enjoyed through the spring and early summer will break apart on July 4th, when Venus moves out of Cancer and into Leo. This could feel a bit jarring, bringing with it a sense of deep change in the realm of business, relationship, and creative process. Venus has been leading the charge of the inner planets through the spring, and this will continue through October, when Venus takes retrograde motion on October 2nd, giving Mercury the lead. This has put Venus into evening star mode all year, rising and setting after the Sun. When Venus's retrograde kicks in, we will lose sight of her as she changes zodiacal order with the Sun and launches into a bout of morning star mode. Enjoy the sparkle of Venus after sunset in the west as the summer progresses. This could be a challenging transit for Venus on multiple counts. Leo, the Sun's fire sign, is not great for supporting Venus. But if we can cushion with enough water and creative juice, this could be good for birthing parts of any creative or performative projects. Another challenge comes with Venus coming face to face with obstructive Ketu, whose job is to provide and remove access at his own mysterious whim. Venus moves past Ketu on July 9th and 10th, if we are looking at the true node calculation. This could lead us into a chapter of breaking through creatively, finding agreement after long negotiation, or realizing the cost or viability of certain relationships. Another factor that could make Venus's flow get slow is Mars's aspect coming at Venus as he transits through her sign of Taurus. This could be a little turbulent, but in a very passionate way that invites us to bring careful design into play as we sculpt our projects. With Venus joining Ketu, Rahu's aspect also beams into Venus's orbit, bringing a sense of innovation, excitement, and surprise into play. By the end of the month, when Venus moves into Virgo, all traces of the notable Kala Amrita Yoga of 2026 will vanish, with Venus leading the inner planets across Ketu's bridge and beginning to balance the ratio of fate to free will once again. Final pulse of Kala Amrita Yoga, July 6th through the 16th. The definition of Kala Sarpa / Kala Amrita Yoga is that all of the planets are positioned on one side of the nodal axis. When all 7 visible planets occupy the 5 signs between the nodes without conjoining the nodes, this is a full expression of the combination. When most of the planets are within those 5 signs, but one or more is conjoining one or both of the nodes, we experience a partial expression of the combination. That planet conjoining the node becomes an agent of a different variety then, showing us the method for breaking through a circumstance that may feel obstructive or entrapping. In this case, we are going to use Venus's magical abilities to connect, nourish, and negotiate in order to confront obstacles and solve problems. Where the past few months may have left us at a loss as to how to move around blockages, July could start offering doorways and connections that lift us away from what felt stuck or oppressive. On July 6th, the moon joins Saturn in Pisces, leaving behind Rahu and tipping the scales to weigh on the signs ranging from Pisces to Cancer. Venus will have already entered Leo, approaching Ketu, getting out her wallet in order to pay the toll that Ketu requires. As you move into July, have a sketch ready of what your life will look like when you get around that thing that has been stopping you. Venus offers the sensory perception to headless Ketu that could also help you to see what has been right in front of you the entire time. On July 16th, the waxing moon joins Venus and Ketu in Leo, bringing more shine into dark eyes and opening a new gateway into next chapters. Keep your eye on the prize with Mars's help as he marches through Taurus. Mid-month is a great time to pivot. Retrograde Mercury regains Gemini July 7th. Mercury entered Cancer on June 22nd, joining Jupiter, only to begin a retrograde cycle at 3 degrees Cancer on June 29th, which then returns him to his own sign of Gemini on July 7th, where he eases back to 23 degrees and resumes direct motion on July 23rd. Mercury stays retrograde from June 29th through July 23rd, bringing the classic influence of variable communication, desire to pack too much in, and walking back conversations or transactions that recently initiated. Retrograde Mercury periods are great for editing and revising, which requires us to let off the gas when it comes to getting things done quickly and efficiently. Good advice for any Mercury retrograde cycle is to slow down and double check, especially when it comes to planning, schedules, and communication. When retrograde Mercury returns to Gemini, he gets the benefit of comfort in his own sign, but also runs into another round of combustion with the Sun. Out of any planet, Mercury spends the most time in combustion, reflecting our own human ability to adjust and adapt as circumstances demand, even when all the details are lost in a blaze of light. This is a good time to learn or relearn lessons that will help you advance rapidly when the time comes. The combustion state keeps Mercury humble, so don't be shy to try something new from a childlike stance. Ego is one of the biggest barriers to wedging into new practices. And if there's something you got into and dropped, this is a brilliant stretch for resuming. New moon in Gemini, Punarvasu, July 14th. The waning moon navigates through our last pulse of partial Kala Amrita Yoga, sliding into the arms of the Sun on July 14th at 28 degrees Gemini in the auspicious nakshatra of Punarvasu. The luminaries are joined by retrograde Mercury, who disappears into the brightness of the Sun right along with the moon. New moon energy leads us into a state of temporary surrender, as we may feel the mental and physical drain that pairs with this monthly phase. Proximity to retrograde Mercury, as well as the added aspect of Rahu from Aquarius, could create a false sense of energization that has little basis or ground. That means running on fumes may be possible, but eventually the crash comes. Be ready for this and exercise wisdom when it comes to energy levels around mid-month. The extra retrograde around this new moon, could indicate a reset or a second chance. As you see this coming, ask yourself if this is what you truly want to try again, or if it was truly wanted the first time around. This is a good time for analyzing data from previous studies and being truthful about what is actually wanted. Jupiter in Cancer is a good growth generator. This is a chance to orient toward what makes sense to promote now that desires, resources, and costs are becoming defined. Sun transits Cancer, July 16th through August 16th. The Sun follows the moon into Cancer for his annual retreat at the lake, spending July 16th through August 16th in the moon's sign, joining forces with well-situated Jupiter. The Sun exiting Gemini also leaves behind that twisting energy created by retrograde Mercury receiving Rahu's aspect, bringing stability and clarity where confusion and impatience may have been swirling. By end of July, Sun will have moved past Jupiter, with the exact conjunction coming on July 29th. Jupiter will be in combust state for most of July as the Sun moves through Cancer, which, as mentioned earlier, could be seen as the Sun burning out Jupiter's voice, or could be seen as Jupiter's message joining with the intense light of the Sun to reach even further. Either way, whatever sign the Sun happens to be transiting tends to bring light and attention to indicated matters. With Cancer, we focus on sensitivity, mental states, home, family, mothers, sales, and anything related with those domains. Cancer is the sign of vulnerability. So add some extra tenderness and care into your approach through the heat of the summer months. The next time the moon comes around to join the sun will be August 12th, when the luminaries join for the new moon in the late degrees of Cancer. This will result in a total solar eclipse due to Ketu's proximity in the adjacent sign of Leo. The July portion of the sun's Cancer transit sees only the Jupiter combustion and conjunction. Otherwise, Cancer is relatively aspect-free, bringing our focus to the combined energies of Jupiter and Sun, which equals big, bright, clear, and positive. Mercury direct in Gemini, July 23rd. Mercury finds himself at 23 degrees of his own sign of Gemini on July 23rd, pausing and resuming direct motion. The variable Mercury energy generated by retrograde cycles can ripple after direct motion is resumed. So maintain that patient stance through the end of July as Mercury begins to reorganize and reorient to the situation on hand. Mercury will then walk forward through the last degrees of Gemini, re-entering Cancer on August 22nd. That gives us a solid window with direct Mercury strongly positioned in his own sign to make sure our communications, transactions, and educational pursuits are lined up just right. Mars joins Mercury in Gemini on August 2nd, which can be a good combination for gaining force and momentum in projects that are begging for energy and steps toward the finish line. Through November, Gemini and Libra will continue to receive the Rakan aspect of Rahu, which brings amplification but also destabilization. Prepare to hold on loosely and not let go, anticipating bumps in the road that could yield opportunities to refine and adjust for efficiency. Saturn retrograde in Pisces, July 26th through December 12th. Each year, Saturn takes retrograde motion for about 4.5 months. Just like any other planet in retrograde motion, it becomes difficult to predict the results of the planet, as retrograde motion throws some wild energy that reminds us of the unstable nodal axis, with Rahu at the head and Ketu at the tail. We expect slow, structural, rules-based, and heavy from Saturn in general, ever limping forward to remind us of the decay underneath, what may be blossoming in the sunshine. His penchant for practicality sometimes translates as negative, restrictive, and limiting. When retrograde, some of these Saturn qualities could begin to wobble, getting either looser or more severe, with results coming a bit faster, having us question if it was the steady work we did or some kind of whim of fate that looks like good fortune. The Saturn retrograde of 2025 spanned from July 13th through November 27th. Please go back and review the Saturn factors that you may have experienced during that time, as there may be similar effects, especially because Saturn will still be in Pisces, just as in the 2025 retrograde phase. Saturn begins the retrograde stretch on July 26th at 21 degrees Pisces, in the final nakshatra of Revati, and will slide back to 14 degrees Pisces by mid-December, regaining his position in Uttarabhadra nakshatra. Overall, this could feel like walking us back a few laps, putting that finish line a little further out of reach, demanding deep level edits and letting go of a weight that is no longer relevant. While the advice for Mercury retrograde tends to sound like slow down, double check, and redo, advice for Saturn retrograde moves toward go for it. Nothing is perfect. Every action is a risk. Full moon in Capricorn, Shravana, July 29th. July comes to a close with a fantastic full moon in Capricorn, Shravana Nakshatra, on July 29th. Shravana brings us the perfect combination of tender receptivity, protected by strong boundaries, allowing us to come to a calm, clear, still point at the end of July. Contained in this full moon moment are a couple of notable planetary interactions. July 29th, Jupiter and the Sun are exactly conjoined at 13 degrees Cancer, opposite the Moon at 13 degrees Capricorn. This brings the positive divine energy of exalted Jupiter into the fusion that is created with this full moon, where all three of the Sattvic planets interact. Sattva is the quality or guna that corresponds with light, good, positive, and wise. Find a quiet place to take in this energy toward the month's end, as it provides us all with an extra dose of sattva. Also at this moment, Mars from 28 degrees Taurus is aspecting Venus at 28 degrees Leo. These two dynamic and passionate planets at this moment are both set to change from fixed signs to dual signs, signaling a shift from stationary to moving. What may have felt stuck, pending, or not quite ready could suddenly begin to roll as July becomes August. August 2026 headlines. Venus transits Virgo, July 31st through September 1st. Mars transits Gemini, August 2nd through September 18th. Mercury transits Cancer, August 7th through the 22nd. New moon total solar eclipse in Cancer, Ashlesha Nakshatra, August 12th. The Sun transits Leo, August 16th through September 16th. Mercury transits Leo, August 22nd through September 6th. Full moon partial lunar eclipse in Aquarius, Shatabishak, on August 28th. Thank you so much for tuning in to the July 2026 forecast. Have a safe, happy, and joy-filled month, and I will check in with you for August. Thank you for listening to this presentation. If you are interested in following my work, look for Kerry Shamblin Astrology on YouTube, Spotify, Patreon, Facebook, and Instagram. My monthly forecast is published in written and audio format on my website, planetaryinfluence.com, where you can join my email list or book a one-on-one session with me. My goal is to light your path toward a joyful and liberated life experience.